Since its release, Diablo 4 has been on a steady decline, and frankly, gamers are sick and tired of it. Heroes! In this video we go over 10 reasons why gamers just don't care about Diablo 4 anymore, and with my number one probably being the biggest reason. And as someone who is looking forward to this release, it's saddened to see the downfall of a great IP. Make note this list is reviewing the game in its current state until Season 3 and before any DLCs. So with time, just as Diablo 3, the game may get a lot better, but until then, let's get to the list. Disclaimer: before I begin, just to make it clear, video games are at discretion of the player. You can review this list and agree or disagree. In the end, if you enjoy it, that's what's most important. So take this list as a good to know concept moving forward. Number 10. Lack of content. After finishing the main story, leveling your character, and finding all the altars of Lilith, there really isn't too much to do. From nightmare dungeons that progressively get harder depending on the sigils, to world events and whispers. There isn't anything else to really sink deep into or provide you a drive to deep dive and spend hours upon hours on. The game just gets boring, and that is not an endgame you want. Number 9. Redoing missions. One thing that was a big issue for many in the community was having to redo missions, and forts, and waypoints over and over again during new seasons. We understand that a new season encompasses some new mechanics and enemies, and story concepts, but overall having to redo all these things we've already found is just unnecessary and only adds to the annoyance of redoing things you've already done. It's a full circle which frankly, we're getting tired of. Number 8. Gear seems the same. One aspect of ARPGs is being able to find new gear that makes your build that much better. With Diablo 4, the gear at times just seems the same, with small differences on percentages and affixes, but otherwise it doesn't feel special. The fact that the gear item itself will advise you if it's better shouldn't be the case. You want affixes on gears that truly make a difference, not just 4% more this or 1% less that. I would like to see gear have a bit more in the way of differences than being similar throughout gameplay with small adjustments here and there. Number 7. Seasons are lackluster. Diablo 4 has 3 seasons so far. Season 1, Season of the Malignant, Season 2, Season of Blood, and Season 3, Season of the Construct, all of which were lackluster on their own. From boring missions to repetitive mechanics to grindy tasks, nothing seemed exciting. Season 2 for me at least had a bit more excitement to it, with the vampiric powers and the new world events. But otherwise, it was the same thing repeatedly. There hasn't been anything within the last 3 seasons that have stood out and made us want more. It's been in a way the same thing over and over again with different items and now a new construct friend. Number 6. No killing spree bonus. This was one mechanic I was surprised about that the game didn't have. In Diablo 3 you have an XP bonus for killing sprees, but in Diablo 4 this is missing. Not necessarily something that ruins the experience for players, but something that was so simplistic added a reason to build certain builds to clean house quickly and effectively. Number 5. Need more variety builds. We've talked about this before, how ARPGs should have a variety of different builds you can do. Last Epoch has 20 different classes if you combine all of the main and subclasses, plus with all the specializations and passives. Path of Exiles is, well, Path of Exiles. Diablo 4 just seems stale, and very little in the way of creativity. One thing I would have loved to see was more specialization on skills. Give us more options to fine-tune that skill with specific things. Yes, the legendary items have certain affixes that can help adjust what those skills do, but I mean more in the way of damage, and what type of damage, and how that damage can affect enemies. Almost all the builds in Diablo 4 are very simplistic, and don't have a lot of depth. As for the Paragon boards, yes, these do provide more abilities and stab boosts, but again, even these have their limitations, and hard to deviate being as you can only unlock based on the line of abilities you've already unlocked. Builds in games like these provide a replayability factor for the player, and I find Diablo has very limited ability in doing that. Number 4. World tiers feel stale. The world tiers in Diablo just feel stale in a way. Yes, as you progress in tiers you will find that new things open up for you. That is until tier 3. In tier 4 itself, other than getting higher level items, there isn't anything new or exciting. It just feels the same but with enemies that hit much harder. Difficulty in itself can scale with the nightmare dungeons, but open world and events in that world will remain at that tier. And when you reach a point where it's no longer a challenge, open world in a way becomes meaningless. Same can be said for other Diablo games. And I'm surprised that this hasn't been learned yet by the developers, that this form of difficulty is just not something players enjoy for the long run and should be considered when designing it. Number 3. Lack of variety in enemies. One of the biggest things that will drive me insane is the lack of variety of enemies you will find in the world. Originally, we were told that every region would have their own variety of enemies, and while some of this is true, a majority of it is not. From goatmen to spiders to snake-like creatures and demons, there isn't much variety when it comes to enemies. This isn't a huge issue because frankly at times you only see them for a second before you blow them up, but having different types of unique enemies for your gameplay sessions just adds a bit more immersion for the area you're in. Number 2. Must be online. One element for me that's a big problem is the always need to be online. If you are unable to get access to the internet by way of either ISP problems or not being able to afford it, then you can't play the game, which I find is very unfortunate. I understand the need in today's world to have everything over the internet and globally accessible so John Smith can play with Smith John across the world. Yes, I couldn't think of any other name. The issue here is that you are now limiting potential player bases. Some hate always having to be online, and heaven forbids if you have ISP issues, you now can't play, and your enjoyment is thrown out the window because it's an inaccessible game. Before we get to our number 1 issue with Diablo 4, I asked that if you lasted this long, leave a like to the video and a sub to the channel. Even a comment goes a long way, and here's our number 1. Number 1. Forceful pricing. I can't begin to express how forceful Blizzard feels when it comes to pricing layouts. I understand the need to help support the game and its servers and Blizzard alone, but the fact some cosmetics are around $60 is insane. Not only that, seasons, cosmetics, and overall the experience of Diablo for a fully priced game just seems like their focus is on money rather than enjoyment, which I know for Blizzard is no surprise whatsoever. But some of these prices are just ridiculous. From an item point of view and currency point of view, this right here tells me that the developer cares for your money and not for your enjoyment, hands down. Not to mention how always in your face buy this and buy that is. Thankfully, gameplay is not hidden behind a paywall, as it's all cosmetic and fully optional. But you never know down the road. Those are my top 10 reasons why people are just not caring for Diablo 4 anymore, and I guarantee there are more reasons why. So if you have any, please feel free to share them in the comments. If you've gotten this far, please consider leaving a like and sub to the channel to help this video get to more eyes. Also, if you can, remember to subscribe to us on Twitch at twitch.tv/HealPleaseHeal, where we stream on Fridays and Sundays. Thank you for watching, and remember to heal, please heal.